This is our SMA. I'm going to introduce you. Well, officially.
Hi, good afternoon.
Tony.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
Good to see you.
Sorry, that's it.
Well,
My last one. I'll take a photo. The office is pretty cool.
Office means work.
No, no, no.
You can have that.
Exactly.
Did you get a water?
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, half a day, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners regularly scheduled meeting at 12 noon, March 14th, 2023. We are here at GHURA's main office, and others are joining us via Zoom on the first floor here in the beautiful village of Senania. I'd like to plug that for our mayor. Call this meeting to order at 12:03. And let's begin with roll call. Commissioner Delia.
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Here.
Commissioner Rice.
Here.
Commissioner Corpus.
Here.
Commissioner Shizaki.
Present.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately for us, and fortunately for her, because now I think she's going to go on a vacation. Vice Chair Commissioner Monica Guzman, his term has expired. And so we want to thank her for all of her work and on the board and all that she contributed. We wish her well on her next endeavors. And so we won't be marking her attendance for today.
Here.
Okay. Other than that, I think we are all present and we have a quorum. So we will proceed with item number 2, board meeting public announcements, first printing and second printing. Tuesday, March 7th, which is located in your packet, which is there. And Sunday, March 12th, which is also there. Looks in order for announcements. Let's move on to item number 3, approval of previous board minutes from February 21st, 2020, which is also located in the packets.
I just see one, it's right under new business, paragraph right before item number 2. Commissioner Sanchez seconded the motion versus seconded.
Tried to make another word.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Reading
All I see on my side.
Noted.
Hi, if I may, Chairman, I
Sure.
just have 2. On page 3 of 6, on the very top where it says the first bullet, results of the bid submissions were opened. It should include "and" read aloud.
Okay.
And then page 5 of 6, the very first line, Commissioner Sanchez inquired about the steps that GHURA has. We just need to add an "N" as taken to ensure, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Very much.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
I do apologize. Page 1 has me listed for management and staff. I actually was not in attendance during the last board meeting.
That's correct. Okay. Very much. There are no other corrections. May call for the motion.
I will make a motion to approve the board minutes on, I'm sorry, for January 24th, right?
February 21.
I'm sorry, February 21st, 2023. With corrections.
Okay, thank you very much. May I get a second? Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez, for the second. Any other further discussion on the matter? Nope, hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hands. I can see you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously. Before we get to new business, I see Senator Kanata online joining us. Happy day, Senator. Thank you for joining us.
Off to you guys. Trying to wish you all the best and keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to item number 4, new business, resolution number FY 2023-009. Madam Director, I believe that's you.
Thank you, Chairman John. Resolution commending Ms. Monica O. Guzman for her dedication and contributions as the Vice Chairwoman of the GHURA Board of Commissioners. Whereas Ms. Monica Guzman was appointed by Governor Lulian Guerrero in February 2019 to serve as Vice Chairwoman of the GHURA Board of Commissioners, and whereas throughout her 4-year tenure from February 2019 to February 2023, Ms. Guzman exemplified and maintained a high standard of professionalism and integrity. And whereas in executing her official duties and responsibilities as the board's vice chairwoman, Ms. Guzman had a direct and positive impact toward ensuring that both programs and projects directly benefited the community of Guam and our GHURA families. And whereas Ms. Guzman contributed positively to the lives and successes of thousands upon thousands of island residents under her leadership. And whereas in her 4-year tenure, Ms. Guzman's leadership and accomplishments are highlighted below. She presided over GHURA's board meetings with the utmost professionalism when called upon, supported GHURA's activities such as groundbreaking, ribbon cutting, and other GHURA events in her official capacity. Whereas the employees, executive management, executive team, and her fellow GHURA commissioners extend their collective recognition and gratitude to Ms. Monica O. Guzman, commending her for a successful tenure as GHURA's vice chairwoman of the board, and bid her best wishes on her future endeavors. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners unanimously vote to express profound appreciation and gratitude to Ms. Guzman for her public service on the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, and whereby a copy shall be provided to the Governor of Guam, Speaker of the Guam Legislature, and Legislative Committee overseeing the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority.
Thank you very much. Would anybody like to comment or add anything to the floor?
Well, that shall be nice.
Absolutely, well said. Right. Anything further?
I'd like to say that, we of course extend our thanks for her contributions, and for her to just know that ongoing with construction, we will definitely keep the one-to-one tree initiative ongoing, right? And with due consideration for the impact of that. So for every tree we take down, we commit to plant another one, one if not two.
Thank you, Deputy. I think we're going to charge you. We're going to charge you today with the Monica Initiative, the one-to-one Monica Initiative. You've been hereby endowed officially on the record as the caretaker of the one-to-one Monica Initiative.
All right.
Congratulations.
Anybody else? Okay. I mean, I think, anybody who decides to give themselves in service for a number of years is worthy of mention, right? And I really, to me, right, I really love that one part that, we have contributed positively to the lives and success of thousands upon thousands of our island residents, right? These are our people. So what better measure of that success, right? Okay, so if I hear and see no other further discussions, then may I call for the vote on resolution number FY 2023-009. I'm sorry, not the vote, call for the motion, sorry. Getting ahead of myself.
To pass the resolution,
Mhm.
okay. I move to pass resolution number FY 2023-009, commending Ms. Monica O. Guzman for her dedication and contributions as the vice chairwoman of the GHURA Board of Commissioners.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Delia. May I get a second? Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Sanchez, for the second. Any further discussion or additional discussions on the floor? Okay. Hearing seen none, I call now for the vote. All in favor, say aye, raise your hand so I see you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Motion carries and passes unanimously, right? Congratulations. I'm sure we'll be seeing her, right?
Yes.
We should plan a tree in her name. Can we plan?
We will plant a tree in her name.
There you go.
I promise we won't plant Sakati in her name. Definitely a tree of no.
A tree of wisdom.
There you go. Okay. Resolution number FY 2023-010. Madam Director.
Thank you, Chairman. Resolution number FY 2023-010. Resolution requesting additional positions in the public housing AMP number 1 and AMP number 3 divisions. Whereas pursuant to section 5104, title 12 of the Guam Code annotated, the Board of Commissioners of the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is given the right and responsibility to govern and control the operations of the authority and to establish policies for its day-to-day operations, and generally to undertake its responsibilities as supreme authority for the agency. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of GHURA is empowered to employ officers, technical experts, agents, and employees, permanent and temporary, as it may deem necessary to carry out the responsibilities of the authority, and is subject to the new uniform position classification and salary administration plan of the authority. And whereas executive management supports public housing AMP number 1 and public housing AMP number 3 divisions requests for additional positions to help bring up their monthly occupancy numbers and to expand workforce capabilities to meet evolving workloads. And whereas the Board of Commissioners wishes to follow GHURA's organization plan as adopted for fiscal year 2023 and recognizes the need for additional positions in the public housing AMP number 1 and public housing AMP number 3 divisions as follows. AMP number 1, interviewer clerk, GG4-1A, $24,587 per annum, 1 position. AMP number 3, clerk 1, CG4-1A, $19,873 per annum, 1 position. Interviewer clerk, GG4-1A, $24,587 per annum, 1 position. Maintenance worker, HM3-1A, $33,315 per annum, 1 position. And if I may, I think we just need to change that comma to a decimal point under the 315. Whereas the Board of Commissioners approved all positions under the FY 2023 Administrative Operating Budget. And whereas the Board of Commissioners wish to approve these additional positions in the public housing AMP number 1 and AMP number 3 divisions respectively to meet their program demands. Whereas the funding for these positions is available under public housing AMP number 1 and AMP number 3 funds. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the classification rate for said positions is established at their respective pay ranges indicated above, in conformance with GHURA's wage structure and benefits provided to our employees, which include retirement benefits, group insurance, health and life, workers' compensation, annual leave, and sick leave benefits. And so we just make note that the maintenance worker under AMP number 3 really does, I'm so sorry that we missed that. There needs to be a decimal point, and it's $33,315 per annum. And thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, if I may speak on that matter.
Oh, sure.
Well, first, two items. First, I think as a procedural matter, if not sure if we need to vote to adopt the amendment. So based on what we're voting today should be as amended.
Right. I agree. I think then we'll make a motion. We'll put in an amendment
Okay,
as part of that,
thank
just
you.
to be overt about it.
The second part, so we conducted an operational analysis of the apps, right? Really trying to find where some of the backlog comes from. Average time for every app ranges slightly, but typically they average around a 45-day turnaround from the time somebody moves out to the time we get somebody in. What we found in our analysis was the biggest backlog was with the interviewer clerk, when we kind of analyze the time frame per position throughout the entire process. That being said, every app is going to be getting an additional interviewer clerk, not only to increase the efficiency, but also have some succession planning, right? We've already felt the hardship should an interviewer clerk either leave, get promoted to another job, and then having to fill that position. So having a little redundancy there not only will increase efficiency, but also ensure that we have a steady state of operations should we lose one of those members. Additionally, we found some areas, particularly with some of the apps, where there could be some improvements, and that's where some of the positions come in. Now, you may not see positions for apps 2 and apps 4, and that's because what we've been able to do internally was take funded vacant positions and reprogram those. And so per the requirements of the board, any new positions above the staffing patterns require board approval. And so these are the positions that remain that we couldn't reprogram internally that would require additional staffing to ensure the operations of the apps, actually improve the operations of the app. So humbly request your consideration and approval of this measure so we can get them the badly needed support down there.
Thank you. So just a clarifying question about the organization and how this works, right? So the interviewer clerk, the way that it looks, right, is it's assigned to the AMP, right? AMP 1, then AMP 3.
Yes.
Do these folks function as I guess, are they only bound to AMP 1 or 3, or does this work more as like a pool?
Well, they are assigned to the app. Each app has their own budget.
Got it.
Now, that doesn't mean that we can't, if need be, we have in the past, and we do it very often because of the staffing shortages. Should the need arise, we can detail them to another app and use them interchangeably. And that's one of the reasons why building it across the board really helps.
Right.
The entire public housing spectrum. So both, to answer your question,
okay,
Mr. Chair. So we can cross load them if needed. It's circumstantial, but the main thing is that we have, in increasing the amount of people we have a larger pool of trained individuals.
Right.
Even so much as, because there's similarities in dire need, we've been able to, at the expense of the public housing, when there's been a dire need, be able to detail people from Section 8, and they've volunteered additional time to help. And so we're able to do that fiscally to ensure that the right pot is being paid out for these folks. But that shouldn't be the standard practice, is to rely across other functions, because that may not always be there.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions? Hearing no further discussion, I may call for the vote on resolution number 2023-010 with a specific mention and note of the amendment to the document.
On the vote or?
No,
That's what I was saying, vote again. Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
All that for you.
It's
Yeah.
getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
No,
Call for the motion.
Chair, I motion to approve resolution number FY 2023-010. Resolution requesting additional positions in the public housing AMP1 and AMP3 divisions with specific notes to the documentation. So
And for the record, what did you just mention what that would be?
Director, just me, W Director.
Maintenance worker,
Right,
period instead of
with
comma.
the period instead of comma with the salary of $33,315.
Okay.
The amendment.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Second that motion?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Shizaki, for the second. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Here you see none, may I call for the vote now. May you raise your right hand in affirmation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. Resolution number FY 2023-010 passes unanimously with specific mention of the edit or the amendment to the document to reflect worker salary of $33,315. Thank you very much. Moving on, intent to award IFB GHURA -23-03 CDBG-5 TREN for telefocal Renaissance concrete repair. Madam Director, I believe that's
Hold
yours.
on just a second. Sorry, my board packet is out of order.
Yeah, mine too.
So let me go to that.
That one is,
Hold on.
This is the write-off.
right, the next
And
one's
then,
right off, so we need to probably go past that one.
Yes.
If I may.
Okay, if I may, I think we do not have the intent to award for IFB GHURA 23-03 CDBG-5 TREN for the telefocal Renaissance concrete repair. So my apologies. I don't believe that intent to award was ready for today's meeting. So if we maybe table it until the next meeting, my apologies that I didn't realize that we don't have that in our board packet. So the next item, yeah.
So officially, we're gonna table new business item number 4, number 3, the intent to
Yes,
award.
table number 3, intent to award.
Okay, thank you very much. So then let's move on to resolution number FY 2023-011.
Okay, so FY 2023-011 is resolution approving the write-off of tenant accounts receivables. Whereas the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GHURA, is the Guam Public Housing Authority that provides decent homes and suitable living environments for Guam families of low income to afford to pay for safe, sanitary, and decent dwelling accommodations. And whereas the governance and well-being of GHURA is vested in the Board of Commissioners, BOC, and empowered by 12 Guam Code Annotated Chapter 5, Section 5104. And whereas BOC Resolution Number FY 2018-002, Resolution adopting the write-off policy for uncollectible accounts for GHURA rental properties. And whereas in the normal course of business, the authority is involved in transactions that result in monies being owed to GHURA for which they are unable to collect, and as necessary, whereas the property site managers submit summaries of debts considered for write-off to prevent overstating of assets which are affecting the authority's financial performance. And whereas currently GURA's receivables include outstanding accounts which have remained in GURA's books for over 90 days as of December 31st, 2022, as indicated below. Property site, AMP number 1, write-off amount, $9,594.63. AMP 2, write-off amount, $951.41. AMP 3, write-off amount, $9,006.85. AMP 4, write-off amount, $38,051.85. And GT, Guma Tranquilidad, write-off amount $476.35 for a total write-off amount of $58,081.09. Whereas GURA, through the property site managers, exert diligent collection efforts in pursuit of outstanding receivables, and although ongoing collection efforts are abandoned on these accounts, GURA reserves the right and duty to collect should the opportunity arise. And whereas it is in accordance with GURA's procedure and good business practices to write off accounts receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted, and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the BOC approves writing off $58,081.09 of GURA receivables after all reasonable collection procedures have been exhausted, and there is not a reasonable expectation that the accounts will be collected. And I note that the packet included the write-off details from each of the app sites indicated. And if I may just add that I know for those that are not familiar with our write-off, what happens after we write them off, their names and the accounts that they, the total amounts that they owe actually are forwarded to the Department of Revenue and Taxation. So that should, they have some kind of refund or some monies coming to them, Department of Revenue and Taxation knows that they owe GURA for certain amounts, and they won't release those refunds to them.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, maybe a couple. Ms. Liz, I noticed that AMP4, the write-off is like much higher than the other AMPs or Tranquilidad. Can you tell us why?
So I know for one, and then maybe the DD can also chime in, but AMP4 has the most number of public housing units that are in Total Gardens and Dededo Elderly, and then regular Dededo public housing. And so I'm not really sure, but I would think that it's because they are the largest AMP site. They have a lot more residents that I guess, to put it simply, have been agua-guat.
Okay. All right. And
I
then,
don't know, Deputy Director, anything more you want to add?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Actually, that's probably the most significant reason. Part of the overall scoring for public housing collections is definitely a big factor, and that has been noted as part of our operational analysis overall, because the collections also drive the operations, right? We do rely on those revenues. So there have been some staffing challenges as well, which is what was being resolved by the hard work of Ms. Kim through hiring additional. We just hired another HS. One of the big functions they do is go after the collections aggressively. And so part of the resolution that just passed, getting more folks in there, should improve that situation. But a lot of times, despite the collections, they just don't want to respond or don't have the ability to pay. And I can also submit for the board that documentation and proof of collection attempts is required by HUD to be documented, because again, it does affect our overall mass score.
And
But we
I
will
do-
remain diligent, Mr. Commissioner. And I'll look
And I
into,
do know, oh, sorry.
yes, no, go ahead.
No, and I do know that our site managers have also made sure that the residents were aware that they could turn to the emergency rental assistance program that's being administered by the Department of Administration to try to seek assistance with those past due rents, right? And there are some that either for one reason or another, maybe they did apply and were deemed ineligible, or they didn't even bother to apply for that. But the staff really goes out of its way to try to collect those monies until they just can't. And so we need to get them off the books and refer them to the Department of Revenue and Taxation.
Got
Can I
it.
add
Thank you.
one more thing, if I may?
Sure.
So also with that, it could happen with the other amps as well. There are situations that would drive that cost up, Mr. Commissioner, such as if there was an abandonment that would require cleaning, which is contracted out, that could quickly drive up the cost. And I believe there might have been one or two for AMP4, as well as if there are damages. So if there are significant damages, let's say the resident just damages the place fairly significant, that also increases the cost, and that is put on their debt. And so one or two of those could drive that cost up to 38. And I believe there were one or two incidents within AMP4, our largest public housing, where that did occur. Easily could rack up 10,000 for a single tenant, not just in terms of rent due, but also other amounts due to GHURA.
So from the date closeout process, that's the time that you guys have been trying to collect the monies, right?
Yes.
And to date, you have not been able to collect it. That's what we're writing it off.
Correct. So it goes by calendar year plus 90 days.
Okay.
So we'll go through the end of the calendar year, which will be December 31st. Then after 90 days, our final attempts to collect, should it not, then we go for the write-off process to allow every opportunity for them to pay or settle.
And this termination grievance hearing, I've seen a lot of this on the reasons for termination, is that you just cannot come to a agreement with them?
So if they're in a grievance termination hearing, so we allow them, where they're allowed per HUD regulations, an opportunity to appeal the decision. So if it's going at, usually where that involves are violations of the lease. So sometimes they're they go hand in hand with some of this. They may be terminated because they've destroyed the property or not taking care of it, or other significant activities that warrant a termination. So that just comes out as part of it. Yeah. So typically when those significant, what we've seen in history, both with Section 8 and public housing, usually those gross violations that warrant a termination often result in kind of a hearing to go with it. But we do allow them full due process under our rules and regs before it would go to court, or could go to court. Being the eviction process.
Okay, so just one more question, and I don't want to hold you up, but how successful has RevTax been in some of those recoveries? Do we know?
In the time that I have been here, I have received a couple of calls from former residents that went to get their tax refunds, and then were told by RevTax, sorry, but you owe GHURA. So I have had to meet with them to let them know, correct, you do owe GHURA, so we need to let you know that they can't release that to you until you make good on what is owed. So they do let us know. And then the residents themselves, of course, call, because why is my refund being garnished, right? So it does work.
Can I have one question, please? How long does Revenue Tax keep these outstanding balances on their books? Is there a timeline, 7 years, 5 years?
I don't believe there's a timeline, but I can get a definitive answer for you. I can get a definitive answer for the board, and I'll have that. We'll have that sent out as soon as we get it.
Yes, that's correct. We don't know what their timeline is to keep it on the books.
Fortunately, we have legal counsel who can look at what the statute says about our collection opportunity for that, right?
Exactly.
I have a question on Deputy. Do you know if once the account is sent to the to collections, are there penalties and interest tacked onto their debt? There is.
Yeah,
Yes.
There is.
yes,
Okay.
for both, right? Section 8 and
Section 8 and
Oh, and one more thing. When they do owe, should they be attempting to reapply for housing assistance under GHURA? They are flagged. We do show whether or not they owe, and then, you know, of course, we cannot approve their application until that's cleared.
Any further questions or discussion? If there's none, may I call for the motion for resolution number FY 2023-011.
I will make a motion to pass resolution number FY 2023-011. This resolution approves the write-off of tenant accounts receivables for property sites AMP1 in the amount of $9,594.63, AMP2 $951.41, AMP3 $9,006.85, AMP4 for $38,051.85, to include also, I'm assuming GT is gross.
No, Guma Tranquilidad.
Guma Tranquilidad, I'm so sorry, $476.35. The total write-off amount is $58,081.09.
Thank you very much. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice, for the second. Any further discussion on the matter on the floor? Okay, hearing and seeing none, may I call for the vote for resolution number FY 2023-011. All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number FY 2023-001. Moving on to agenda item number 5, correspondences and reports, travel report for Inspire.
Thank you, Chairman. And so this is where last meeting we were awaiting or we tabled this so that Deputy Director Fernando Estevez can present on the training that he and 2 other staff, Mr. Stephen Baza from the Section 8 inspectors and Mike Orrit from Public Housing Building Maintenance Supervisor, that the training they attended for Inspire in Oakland. So Mr. D.D. Estevez, you may present.
Thank you, Madam Director. If I could get the slide put up, Audrey. We go widescreen and presentation mode. Any way to make that bigger? It should be like a fit to screen option.
I'm sorry, sir.
It's okay. I mean, it's not too long.
It's in the
In
board
the
packet.
interest of time, it's in the board packet. So if I could refer you to what would be page 16 out of 24 of the board packet. It's introduction. So I'll be presenting on behalf of myself and Stephen Baza and Matt Orrit, who attended the conference on behalf of GURA. So representation from the policy side, Section 8, as well as public housing. We attended the Inspire Get Ready series on 31 July 2023. So it's a single day conference held. In the introduction sheet, you can see just had some action shots of us. If you notice top left picture, our GURA team was right there front and center early and in front for the entire conference. Even there in the sign up, we beat them before they were even ready to go for us. Bottom left, you'll see us with Miss Ash Sheriff. Ash Sheriff is one of the deputy secretaries for HUD. She is the one who oversees all of REAC for HUD. So that includes both Section 8 as well as public housing. Definitely great connecting with her, getting information and opening those lines of communication, which I'll discuss further on in the presentation. And then on the right would be myself, Mr. Jason Poo, who is the Region 9 administrator for HUD. And then I apologize for getting his name, but the executive director for public health, the PHA of Northern California. So he's their executive director for up there. So you'll have on page 17, little military term, which is the bluff, bottom line up front. The in-person conference did provide valuable information unavailable via publication. And by publication, we're talking about the Inspire website. So we've heard a lot of grumblings about Inspire, if it's coming, when it's coming, what it's going to be about, but we didn't have anything definitive that had been provided for us. That was provided in this in-person conference. So the main takeaway is that HUD provided their projected implementation timeline, which we'll be sharing with you, and we've already shared with the agency and are currently preparing for. They also had, which was the majority of the conference, was an in-depth rationale for their Inspire standards. So they really explained how they derived these new standards, arrived to their conclusions, and were very open about things they were not undecided on. And so which provides an opportunity for Guam, based on our analysis, to be able to provide input on things that may negatively impact or not fully be applicable to us here on Guam. Part of that was explaining their new exemptions and exceptions process. And then also we were able to advocate for applicability of standards. So as an example, one of the things they're considering for, or one of the things currently in Inspire, is a minimum heating standard. And so what that may have meant had, not just us, but other PHAs having advocated for this, would have meant that we would have been required to maintain a certain level of heating there, which means we would have had to install heaters in public housing, right? Which is laughable almost, but again, it's that type of advocacy that we present to HUD that let them understand that not every PHA is created equal. So that is a current exemption. Now, there are things that may come up that they're looking into is, well, if there's a minimum heating standard, there may be a minimum cooling standard. So that's definitely discussion to be had in the future if air conditioning would be a requirement for all units, both public housing and with Section 8. And so that's something that's still ongoing. And so obviously we know the challenges that could present for us as well as the resident in terms of increased utility costs, right, that become mandatory. There are still pending HUD decisions, item 4, on one, the exemption, sorry, that should be exemption and exception processing. So how they're going to process those. They know that there will be exemption requests and exceptions made by PHA, but they're not fully yet, they haven't fully finalized how that process is going to be. So opening the lines of communication just allows us to keep putting that in their ear that we are going to need this, and that the change in standard doesn't come up to us and we don't find via federal registrar that this becomes a new federal regulation and we weren't really provided additional input outside of the registrar input, which is just the comment phase, and that's usually pretty far along in that process. The other additional thing is scoring. It was surprising to us to discover that they haven't really figured out what the scoring system is going to be. So they know the standard is coming and it's coming fairly soon, but how the PHA's GURA is going to be scored has not yet been finalized yet. That's still pending. One of the things that came up is we were pending a REAC inspection. I think we've mentioned it a couple of times. Public Housing was preparing for a REAC inspection, and that was based on the UPCS standard. We did confirm in our discussions also with advocacy, and we were able to get that canceled. And the reason being is that the final UPCS inspection will all be completed come 31 March, which is coming up in 2 weeks. After that, everyone will be moving to the Inspire standard fairly soon. And so, you know, part of the discussion was, since we're already going to be one of the first ones coming up for Inspire, you know, maybe just allow us to go ahead and focus on converting and conforming to the Inspire standard coming up later this year. And that seemed amenable. So our REAC was canceled. And I say canceled only because it's a change in the standard. And so it'll be an Inspire inspection coming up, which will show you on the timeline that we're presenting. So let's see. Oh, it's right there. I'm sorry. Postponed until July 2023. So that's actually when the Inspire standard is going to take effect for public housing. So fairly soon. There were 135 attendees. HUD attendees, as I mentioned, Jason Poo, Region 9 Administrator, Deputy Assistant Secretary, Head of REAC, Ashley Sheriff. Other attendees were from state, county, and municipal public housing authorities. So it was a great networking opportunity to pick their brains on similar challenges, unique challenges, as well as some solutions. And that's beyond Inspire. We were able to kind of pick their brains for a lot of different things. And so, as I mentioned there, added benefit of collegial discussion. So seeing what's going on in the mainland. So brief summary on Inspire. It applies to public housing, Section 8, any CPD project, so home developments and such, and multifamily, which would be GHURA. So pretty much across the board for all of our programs. The standards are going to be published in 24 CFR Part 5, Subpart G. Inspire merges UPCS standards, which was for multifamily, GHURA, and public housing, along with HQS, health quality and safety, right? Health quality standards. Health quality standards.
Housing quality.
Housing quality, my apologies. HQS, which is specific to Section 8. So what it does is it merges them all into one unified standard for HUD. And that's why we had representatives from both public housing and Section 8 attend to see, you know, what that merger is going to look like. Inspire focuses on health and safety, weighted heavily towards unit interior. So HUD and Inspire considers 3 areas. The best way to look at it would be, to understand it would be an apartment complex. Interior being anything within the unit. All right, secondary would be common areas. And then the third area of priority would be exteriors. If you're familiar with REAC and the USPCS standard, or UPCS standard, there was a lot of weight towards the exterior of the units, right? So you could have it immaculate, the units could be well above the standards, but you could have any number of things. I think there was one instance, it was discovered there was some illegal dumping out near GHURA property, right? That was not known at the time because it was covered by trash. And that alone failed, had them score low, really dropped the score on it. And so what HUD wants to do is really focus on where do our clientele, both tenants and residents, spend the most amount of time, which is indoors, and really focus on bringing those standards up to the highest compliance and conformance. So that's going to be the highest weighted area. Not to say that we're going to completely ignore common areas and exteriors, but health and safety being the #1 priority for HUD. And we see the scoring will consider both the resident and tenant feedback. So that's something new, but not new. So that's been a standard that was in effect in the 90s, but now it's being brought back. So overall scoring for the programs will take into account feedback from the people that are utilizing the program. That still, unfortunately, they don't have details on that. They just know that they will incorporate tenant and resident feedback. They just don't know how that's going to apply to the score. And yeah, unfortunately, but they're looking at implementing still by the fourth quarter of this year. One of the other big changes is the way that Inspire is going to be conducted. So they're going full digital on this in terms of the platform. They're going to be using the Salesforce platform. That's how we'll be notified whether there's an Inspire inspection coming up. That's how any deficiencies noted during the Inspire inspection will be tracked for resolution. And so HUD will be able to have eyes on any of these things at all times very quickly. But it also presents an opportunity for us to also track it in our system and for management to be able to keep tabs on these items, these maintenance items, or any deficiencies for resolution actively. One of the last slides, let's see. So go forward one, Audrey, there you go. Thank you. So here are the 8 key focus areas on Inspire for health and safety. Carbon monoxide. So as you may see, I know Section 8 had already implemented, and it seems a little unreasonable for Guam, right? Because we don't use needing to have the carbon monoxide monitors, but it was resolved that sometimes people, although not allowed, do use their indoor stoves and things like that, and anything that may generate carbon monoxide. So that's a standard that's across the board. Habitability is going to be one of the key focus areas. And so with that comes environmental. So that's where the heating and cooling come into play. Structural has always been a key focus, so that remains. Fire safety is one of the big ones. The thing with the standard before was it was a placeholder. They took a point in time and used that for fire safety requirements under Inspire, which we understand that the fire code does get updated and changed it. So when the conformance to Inspire allows those federal relations and those regulations and those codes to align with the changes. So those will be constantly updated. So we can understand in terms of fire safety, we'll always be up to date with the latest and greatest, and Inspire will always be up to date with the latest and greatest. How that plays out in terms of additional costs, this and that, is still being analyzed. And I know there are going to probably be some challenges, potentially with some landlords who may have to increase or add on to conform to these. Mold and moisture being one of the health and safety focuses. Water safety is another one. Now that is more determined at the municipal level. The only real add on that is that we're required to report if there are any water quality issues to HUD. They understand that EPA is the regulatory agency on the federal side for that, but they do want a reporting on that. Lead-based paint has been a big one across the board for all projects that we do, even with CDBG. And infestation, so pest control. Termites, mice, rats, and the like are also one of the key focus areas. So these are the 8 areas that we'll be focusing on. And these are the areas that will have the highest weights for grade and scoring. Now, the last slide, in terms of our glide path to success and our implementation timeline. So next slide, please. So we started, start point was 13 February after we've kind of taken that back, both Stephen and Michael, to work within the agencies and their respective areas to inform on the updated standard. We still estimate that the final rule would have came out in 20th February. I apologize, that's actually moved up. So the final ruling in terms of the registrar and the CFR hasn't been published yet. We know that it's coming really any day now, so we're on the lookout for that. We had a executive meeting, resourcing meeting, and then we'll be moving that next to the managers. So the resourcing meeting is figuring out what we need to get to the Inspire standard. So as an example, as I mentioned, because this is going to be a full digital system for Inspire, we have to look into things like tablets and other IT infrastructure to be able to support that. So Part of the resourcing meeting is to connect our MIS with the contractors for Inspire on the technical side to see how we can fully implement it into what we're doing. So that's going to apply for both Section 8 and public housing, so that our inspectors can go in there with their tablets and conduct their inspections in real time. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that they can't still do it manually and then go back and input them, but it's not the most optimal and efficient way. And so we want to, of course, try to look at our alternatives, right? And not just depend on manual and try to get caught up with that. As one example for resourcing. So all of this is going to help us kind of determine when we develop the 2024 budget, what some of those changes may look like. As I mentioned earlier, on 31 March, UPCS standard completely ends. So that's no longer used by HUD. April 1 is the effective date for Inspire. So that becomes the new standard. So that's right around the corner. On May 1st, we're still planning another resourcing meeting. That's going to probably be more inclusive of everybody providing input. Big date is going to be 1 July. So Inspire IRs being short for inspection of record, begins for public housing. Is 1 July, the public housing inspections will begin. Now, we don't know exactly when that's going to be. And that's why we need to get on that digital system, because we'll get the notification ahead of time on when our inspection is going to be. But for now, we do have contact with HUD React to be able to give us a heads up on that with any additional questions on how to prepare for that. Interesting thing of note, what was committed in the meeting is that even though they're going to be conducting inspection of records, nothing will be held against the GHURA or any of the PHAs for 12 months. So they understand this is new, it's still evolving, they don't even have the final scoring, things like that. And so they're being considerate of that and really kind of doing almost a test phase until the final inspection. So year one is a buy, right? But of course, even though it's a buy, we want to make sure that we're able to pass and we get quickly up to the new standard as soon as possible. And then we're tracking for no later than 1 August that, not for the overall budget, but at minimum, the submission relative to what we need to do for Inspire is submitted and added into the budget consideration for FY 2024. Now, in between those, the larger timelines, we're still constantly training. So there's still constant training. I know on the Section 8 side, they've been really delving heavily into the Inspire website and pulling a lot of those resources as well. And then we're looking at really a hard push from April through July for Inspire preparation. So it shouldn't be too different from what we're doing right now. A lot of the standards that have been put in have been undertaken. So honestly, simple things that we've been doing that surprisingly other PHAs haven't been doing, such as updating all the outlets to GFCI, right, as a safety matter. You know, I'm surprised to hear that a lot of places we're not even up to that level yet. So I think our folks are doing good, and we're just going to continue to press forward. October 1st is when Inspire inspection of records proceed for everybody else. So that'll be Section 8, multifamily, as well as CPD. So it was good that we went, because we had no idea that the timeline was this soon. There had been no inkling, no information put out on when it was, understandably, because they can't put out official word until it's been fully adopted by the federal registrar. So going in person to this and hearing from them about, you know, what they're projecting and what they're intending to do was really good, because they otherwise couldn't share that in terms of official memo. So really glad we went. I appreciate the support of the board to have allowed us to go to this training. It was fast and furious to be able to go, and we didn't even let that simple breaking and entering affect us. So while we're on it, might as well full disclosure, tell a funny story. So there we were on the last day, getting ready to go to the airport, all packed up, planned to, you know, be there 5 hours before the flight. And we said, okay, let's just go now, just get a quick bite to eat. Go run in, grab food to go. Our rental car and 5 others were broken into in a quick smash and grab. And fortunately, one of our travelers, their bag got stolen with their passport and everything. So it's a little stressful. Good thing we purchased the insurance on the vehicle, so that was covered. Apparently, it's extremely common. They just played off like it was nothing, filed the police report, and we were all able to come back safely. Yeah, so it's a good trip. The funniest part I'll share was because the window was broken, we decided to head to the airport even earlier. So we were there about, like, I'm gonna say 8 hours, 11 hours before our flight.
We left about 3 in the morning.
And so we're going down, God, I want to say the 880, heading to the airport because we're in Oakland and we're flying out of San Francisco with the window down. It's freezing cold. And good thing we run into an accident, so the whole interstate is shut down. And we're just kumbayas, we're freezing on the way with the broken window. Yeah, it's definitely memorable, but all of that was worth it because the training was worth it. It was really good to bring that information back, and we're much better prepared to get on this Inspire standard. So thank you to the board. Thank you, Commissioner Ishizaki, for your support, sir. And yeah, that's my report, subject to your questions.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have Mr. Steven Baza here, if he has anything he would like to add.
I think pretty much you hit the nail on the head, but I think as we were going through during the training, it focused more on the UPCS and the public housing side.
Yeah.
So what we did basically is they recommended some the HUD side where we can go ahead and take a look at and how it affects the H2S and how we transfer. So all my guys spent a couple of days, actually 3 days, about 6.5 hours going through. And so we're all certified in the Inspire on the HCB side. So that's good news to know. There are a lot of different things that still need to be ironed out. One of them is the scoring. The second thing too is adapting the software. So we transition from the H2S side to the Inspire side. And of course, the input from the landlords and also to the public. So, you know, as we were discussing, I don't think it's gonna go ahead and happen as quickly as they wanted because there are a lot of things that need to be clarified. But other than that, I think you hit everything that we need to discuss.
Thank you. Thank you. Subject to the board's questions.
Any other questions?
Just one, I want to commend the deputy for a great report. So, your key focus areas for safety. I can't help but ask, is there any concern for radon or hazardous chemicals or World War II ordnance? Because those are unique more to us probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. So ordinance, not so much, though that's something we can take up, but I can say for all other hazardous environmental, and that's one of the key things with Inspire that wasn't considered before, were environmental concerns. So specifically with radon being an area of concern for Guam, probably is going to come to effect. Now, how to this specifically, we can go back and look, but anything and any environmental constituent, hazardous environmental constituent does affect what we do. So environment is a broader category. I don't know if it has its own key focus area, but we can look into it and see how that's going to apply to the Inspire standard. But environment does play a key role overall, which wasn't the case before. So I know for them what they said, environment, lead-based paint, water safety, mold and moisture were never considerations for under REACT. Radon, we'll look into that, Mr. Commissioner. Oh, I'm sorry, may I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I apologize. GURA though is considering radon. And there is a grant we're going after on the CAP fund side to address those issues within our public housing. And so that submission should be coming up. We're preparing, and we are in the grant submission attempting to tie that into Inspire overall. So once we get more fidelity on that, we're happy to report back, but it is definitely on our radar.
Thank you.
And if I may just add, I've been in communication with HR, Ms. Kim, because I know one of the things that the entire maintenance staff really appreciated and our inspectors was when we had training for all of them at one time with the Nan McKay representative who came out in May of 2021, I believe. It was very helpful to them. And of course, that was regarding REAC inspections, right? So now that Inspire is going to be the new standards, I'm sure we can find out from our Nan McKay representative when maybe they are able to come out again so that all of the inspectors and maintenance staff are able to, have another training to help them understand the new standards that are going to be used for inspections from here on. So we are looking into that for future.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I believe in your packets, commissioners, there's the 3 or 4 expense reports attached to that. It's my understanding that we should have a motion to accept the expense reports.
We kind of passed that, right?
Was that?
Didn't we already approve the travel?
We did approve the travel, but this is the reporting on the back end, right? To show that what the breakdown was for the amount that we did approve.
Yeah.
There are 3. If I may, call for a motion to approve the expense report.
What amount are we approving?
Not an amount per se, but the report itself.
Okay.
I believe HR needs this, right?
It's in the policy.
Yeah.
The board adopt the trip and expense reports
Right.
for the policy, the travel policy.
And would that be under number 5?
This would be under item number 5.
I don't have Mr. Fernandez.
Oh, it's further up for my presentation.
Oh,
It's page 15 of 24 in your board packet.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
For the oversight, they're all similar
Yeah.
with just the one notation on the deputy's ledger because he has the car. But everything else is standard and similar with a refund to GHURA of 41 cents.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just state for the record regarding the car rental. So when we booked for our policy, we booked for what would fit us and our luggage based on what was approved was for a medium sedan. That was booked and we do have that within the travel record. However, upon arriving, even though we were booked, they didn't have it. And unfortunately, they gave us the only size they had available, which happened to be, full disclosure, was a full-size SUV. Gave us a discount on that, but that was all they had available to give us. So was not the intention of us to get anything bigger than what was planned for, unfortunately. And it's what they had, and unfortunately, lesson learned, and we'll discuss this maybe. I don't know how this would apply to our policy, but anything out of the airport, including the rental car, California had an enormous amount of associated fees just tacked on that was not divulged when you actually book based on the price. So something we'll be mindful for in the future, but all those records are available as part of our submission that itemizes all of those fees and taxes. I don't know how many different names for a fee or tax you could have, but
I believe it.
it was a pretty,
Yeah.
it was pretty nuts. So
Not out of character.
Business as usual for California.
yeah, unfortunately on the ledger, if you look at it, it looked like we got a Rolls Royce we were renting per day. And that's just not the case. So it's just the total amount, including the fees, divided over the 4 days that we did have the rental car, which fortunately included the insurance. Thank God we got that, because
May I get a motion to approve the expense reports as reported?
I will make a motion to approve the expense reports for Michael M. Oret, Stephen C. Baza, and Fernando V. Esteves, attending the Inspire conference.
Thank you very much. May I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice, for the second. Any further discussion on the matter? Right, and for the record, because this is going to go back to HR, right? Can we just test that everything's in order?
Yes, in
For the record?
consultation with the fiscal department.
In consultation with the fiscal department, everything's in order. Thank you very much. Okay, may I now call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. 1, 2. Thank you very much. Your expense reports are accepted unanimously by the board. Thank you very much for the presentation and your work. Right? We will plant the tree in your honor.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Moving on to item number 6, Executive Director's Report.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. For the project updates, Mr. Sunny, I defer to Mr. Sunny for his updates on some of the projects that are nearing completion, actually, and the progress on some of the other ones. Sunny?
Sunny, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Madam Director and Mr. Deputy. Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for allowing me to make this presentation on our projects so far. Ms. Audrey, next page, please. As you can see, the project updates will be covering Pneumatic and Rahan, Women's Treatment Center, the 2 homes projects, and the Telefoco substation. Oh, that's right, the Telefoco sub and the MTF. Thank you. Next slide, Ms. Audrey. So just as a quick catch up, the Pneumatic baseball field was part of another project, or was combined with the Sinahanya baseball field project. One contractor was given the contract to build for renovating two baseball fields, the Sinahanya and the Umatic. And this was awarded back in 2016. Not sure when the Sinahanya started, but was completed in 2019. And then the contractor proceeded to Umatic after 2019, which is probably 2020, which is smack right into the middle of COVID. And so that's why you have that large kind of a delay in the project timeline. Now, as of March 14th, the occupancy permit was fully executed and signed, and we are just waiting for the physical copy of it to be delivered to the GHURA office. And so once it's delivered to us, we can then make the public announcement that the facility and site is ready for public usage. So at this point, the project is completed and done, pending the delivery of the occupancy. Right. Next slide, please, Ms. Audrey. Okay, for the Inarahan basketball court, as you recall, there were several issues and problems that we ran into, mainly with COVID, but that was resolved. Thank you for your help, commissioners, of course. That was a big deal. And now I can report that the contractor, JJ Global, had completed the public works inspection yesterday, and Public Works did accept the inspection and pass them on the occupancy permit. So we are again at the point of waiting for the actual physical copy of the occupancy permit to be delivered, completed occupancy permit to be delivered to the GHURA office. And so once again, once we receive the physical copy completed, we can then make the announcement publicly that this facility can be used for public consumption. Okay. Right, next slide, please, Ms. Doctor. Now, the next presentation I have here, Mr. Michael Bacuyo, to make the presentation. For this slide here, just wanted to give you a point of reference of what the final product will look like, and then I'll hand it over to Mr. Mike.
Good afternoon, sir. This is the 3D rendered for the Lighthouse Recovery Center. But the user proposed with other color, then you're gonna match it to the other buildings. Next slide, please. Here is the actual pictures that taking where the progress of the construction for the Lighthouse Recovery Center. And as you see, they already we asked the contractor that make sure that they are on meet the standard for OSHA, like the scaffoldings for the safety of the construction worker. And now they are already on the second floor, which the installing already the metal frame. Next slide, please. This location, as you see in the pictures, is on the left wing of the building, which we already starting the installation of the metal frame, which is all the white flange. Which after that, they're gonna install the metal deck, and there are portions that they already installed the metal deck. However, there's a portion that issue with the metal column, but the we resolved it right away. Actually, that some question submitted last Friday and gave make a response last Monday. So next slide, please. Same thing. Right now, we are on the 43% of the construction for this building. That's it, sir. Our report for Lighthouse Recovery Center.
All right, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Just again, a point of reference, you can see the main building, the main Salvation Army building on the upper left-hand corner, so you can kind of give yourself a guide as far as the building positioning and how far it's gone. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Audrey. Next slide, please. I'd just like to show you the progress of the 2 homes projects that we just have undergone. And thank you again, commissioners, for approving the change order. This was, I think it was the last meeting where we were talking about the rain delays. Yeah, so this is the one. As you can see in the Pinal homes, this is the one located in Dededo. It is much ahead than the Pinal, I'm sorry, than the Agate project, but nonetheless, for both, they will, we see them to be completed, both projects to be completed by the end of May. Possibly the Pinal will be done ahead of time, of course, as you can see that picture was taken last week with the primer being applied. Today, I just got an update that the final coat of paint, outside exterior coat of paint, has just been applied. So both projects are moving along. And thank you, commissioners, for approving that change order. And next slide, please. Okay, last one, I just wanted to make mention on this Genesis Tech AMP1 site improvements and the tree change order. This was done a few months back, a few meetings back, and Commissioner Corpus did present a question about why didn't we take care of the tree in the way back with the blue arrow. Well, just an update to you, Commissioner Corpus, we did honor your word. We took it to heart. We talked to the contractor. The first reason why the tree wasn't included was because it was private property. And so, of course, that became our kind of like go-to statement. Well, it's not our responsibility, but nonetheless, we did a physical inspection. We found that the tree was dead, and we asked if the owner was okay for us to remove the tree anyways. And so we did get the tree removed, sir.
Yeah, I'm a tree hugger, but you know, just.
No, it's fine.
We don't
Yeah.
think that in any way,
Oh,
I'm
no, sir.
not doubting your abilities and all that.
We
but
take
I think
your
you're doing an outstanding job.
we take your words to heart, all of you, all the commissioners. If you say something, you need to jump 3 feet, that'll get done. So, sir, yes, it wasn't for anything, but you had a point. So we did it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice.
So that concludes the A&E report, pending your questions.
Any questions?
So I could, not a
I
question,
got,
but
I got a question for Sunny. Sunny, what is your anticipated completion date for the Lighthouse Recovery Building?
Okay. Commissioner Shizaki, there is further documentation that will be presented to the board to update the old deadline of April. I think it was April. Yes. Yeah. Our original deadline for contractor completion date was April, and we will be presenting, or I'll be presenting, a change order for the date as well as the contract amount, and probably for the next board meeting. Again, the contractor has yet to present to me his final documents. That's why I haven't proposed it. But again, unofficially, if you would like the unofficial projected, and I'll keep it very unofficial, the unofficial projected and anticipated completion date will be sometime in September, sir, of this year.
That would be nice. That'd be very nice.
We're pushing as hard as we can. Of course, keeping all safety measures. You can see that there is additional scaffolding put up because OSHA is making more frequent visits. So, and of course, we can only keep so many people on site or on the elevated scaffolding as part of their OSHA requirements. So we're pushing, but also making sure that no one falls off.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shizaki. Commissioner Sanchez? Yeah.
Oh, Sonny, I just want to say thank you for staying on top of the Adirondack report. I know historically we've had some challenges with them. And so thank you for facilitating this in a timely manner. I think one of the biggest challenges that we were encountering was their time frame kept changing and they requested to keep pushing it back and giving us, metaphorically throwing them another bone. So, and it looks like it's progressing quite well. I guess extend our gratitude in addition to what you've done, Mike, to Bustamante and his team for getting this done, and of course the mayor. They're not blasting us with media. Yeah, we love you. We love you. But thank you again, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you very much, Sunny.
Thank you.
And Mike, thank you. Thank you. Madam Director, back to you.
Thank you very much. At some future meeting, we will give you an update on, I think, more of the projects. We do meet weekly with our CPD and CDBG and Capital Fund Program, any staff to make sure that we're trying to be in compliance with the monitoring of expenditures that is coming up in August of 2023. So we try to do that on a weekly basis, and we should be able to give you a little bit more information. We've had to do some reprogramming of funds. So as we have that information a little bit more consistent, I think, because there's so many things that keep changing, then we will give you an update. Appreciate your patience in the meantime. And then as far as division updates, so I'm very pleased to announce to staff that we've recently hired. The first one I would like to introduce is our supply management administrator. He will be handling all our procurement, and that is Mr. Antonio Camacho, and I believe he's in the room with you, correct?
Yes, right.
He started with us, I think, 2 weeks ago, and we are so pleased that he's come to join us. Thanks to the recruitment efforts of our Ms. Kim Bersaman in HR. One day we'll tell you the story of how we were able to recruit Mr. Camacho. But please welcome him aboard. We're so happy that he's joined us. And then we also, as of yesterday, he joined us. We have an in-house legal counsel. We have Mr. Elicio Florig, whom I believe is also in the boardroom with you. He just started yesterday, and so we are pleased to have him on board so we can move on with some of our pending legal guidance that we need to turn to him for. So please welcome him aboard as well.
Hi, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, thank you. I'm so new that the wrapper's not even off yet. So as far as working here, I have experience. Yeah.
And that's really all I have under the executive director's report for today, unless you have.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions? No? No, welcome on board, right? Thank you for accepting the call, right, to join us here at GHURA. There's a lot of staffing challenges out there, right? And local talent wise and whatnot for those of us in HR, right? And so anytime we get good people, right, and we continue operations, it's a testament to the leadership that's here, and also a win for our people, right? So welcome on board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, commissioners.
Okay, moving on to the last item before adjournment, item number 7, general discussion, and I see HR here also. Ms. Kim, is that?
Yes, day, commissioners. Good afternoon. Just a courtesy reminder of the 7 board members. Maybe I should say 6 board members, because technically Commissioner Guzman is already. So I'll be working with the 6. Officially, we received 2 completed evaluations. So I'll be working on the other 2 commissioners by the end of the week. And then hopefully by the next board meeting, I'll be able to report back.
Okay.
Okay.
We can probably still ask Commissioner Guzman too. I mean, because her term expired after this timeline. So maybe we should just ask her.
Okay, I'll pursue that.
Right.
Thank
She
you.
can.
We get a printout of that?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then lastly, our next proposed scheduled board meetings for Tuesday, April 11th at 12 p.m. Please mark your calendars and take a look. As always, you know, the fine folks here will send out the reminder and see if we have a quorum for that. But it is scheduled for Tuesday, April 11th at 12 p.m. Any other discussions or general announcements? All right. Hearing and seeing none, may I call for motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion.
You want to stay?
I don't know, they want to stay. I will make a motion to adjourn our meeting for this afternoon.
Okay.
I
Second.
second that.
Thank you, commissioners. Right? Any opposed? Hearing and seeing none, we call this meeting at 1:32 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank
see
you, everyone.
Hey,
It's always fun in person, you know.
This is the first time I've been where
Happy Easter.
you showed up.
Oh, nice.
I thought Monica was gonna